Okay, let's just jump right in. We have all been there, haven't we? You're staring at a task you know you should be doing, but you find yourself doing literally anything else instead. And then, right on cue, comes the guilt, the self-blame. You start telling yourself you're just lazy. But what if that whole story we tell ourselves is just wrong?
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Think about all the time you've spent beating yourself up, calling yourself undisciplined. What if all of that was based on a complete misunderstanding of what's actually going on inside your own head? You see, for years, we've been sold this myth that procrastination is some kind of character flaw. It's painted as a simple failure of time management, a lack of willpower. But that view isn't just wrong, it's actually the very thing that keeps us stuck.
So that's the million-dollar question, right? If it isn't laziness, if it's not a moral failing, then what is really going on when we put things off? Well, the answer, it turns out, is less about productivity and a whole lot more about protection.
And here's the core idea. Procrastination is actually a defense mechanism. It's this instinctive, subconscious strategy our brains pull out to shield us from something it sees as a threat.
This is the crucial shift in thinking. When you procrastinate, you aren't actually avoiding the task itself. You're avoiding the uncomfortable feelings that have gotten tangled up with it. This makes it an emotional regulation problem, not a time management problem.
And that distinction is everything. Laziness is about avoiding physical effort, choosing the couch over going for a run. But procrastination, that's about avoiding an emotional risk. Your brain is literally trying to keep you safe from feelings, not from the actual work.
So what are these negative feelings that we're so desperate to avoid? Well, they often hide just beneath the surface, and they drive our behavior without us even realizing what's happening.
It could be the fear of failure. That little voice asking, what if you try your best and it's still not good enough? It could absolutely be the fear of judgment. What will other people think of this? And, get this, it can even be the fear of success. Yeah, really. What new expectations will I have to live up to if I actually do a great job?
This is the entire shift in perspective, right here on this screen. Instead of focusing on the task you're avoiding, the real move is to get curious about the feeling that's causing you to hit the brakes. That's where the real problem is hiding.
Now, this also explains why just trying harder or using those so-called productivity hacks almost never works in the long run. Those methods are all about treating the symptom, the delay, instead of the emotional root cause.
Let's be absolutely crystal clear on this point. You do not procrastinate because you lack discipline. You procrastinate because a part of your mind senses an emotional threat and is instinctively, automatically trying to protect you.
And this is how we get stuck in that vicious cycle. First, you delay a task. Then, you blame yourself for having no discipline. So you go out and try a new app or a new time-blocking technique. But because you never actually address the underlying fear or anxiety, your brain's threat detection system is still on high alert. And what happens next? You end up procrastinating all over again.
This is such a perfect way to think about it. Those time management hacks, they're just a coat of paint. They might make things look a little better on the surface for a short while, but they do absolutely nothing to fix the real leak, that emotional discomfort that's causing all the damage.
So what's the way out of this? The real solution is a fundamental shift in your focus. It's about turning your attention away from the action you're not taking and turning it toward the emotion you're trying to avoid. So the first step isn't to solve the task. The first step is to solve the emotion. And that means you have to identify what you're feeling, acknowledge that it's there, and then get really curious about what you might need to feel safe enough to actually move forward.
And you know what? When you do that, something incredible happens. The resistance it melts away. The action you were dreading suddenly becomes easy, or at the very least, a whole lot easier. Because the barrier was never the task. It was always the feeling.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. The next time you find yourself putting something off, don't ask, how can I force myself to do this? Instead, just pause and ask yourself this: what feeling is my delay protecting me from? Because the answer to that question, well, that's the real key to finally getting unstuck.